Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Dr. David Ajeigbe. Now, we're going to be discussing his amazing book, Your Response Could Make a Difference. That's available for purchase through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, pretty much wherever books are sold. But also check out the publishing company, AuthorReputationPress.com, to gather the book there as well. And if you haven't figured it out already, Dr. Ajeigbe was brought to our network by that same publishing company, Author Reputation Press. So listen, people, if you or anyone you know have a book that they'd like moved, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give. Contact ARP and have their wonderful team move it for you. They're one of the best in the business to do it, and they absolutely specialize in taking your literary creation to the next level. And again, you can find out more information on them through AuthorReputationPress.com. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Dr. Ajeigbe here, okay? Now, right there in the title, Your Response Could Make a Difference. I mean, listen, there's no beating around the bush, okay? You have an idea of the conversation that's getting ready to ensue. Now, it's all going to be validated the moment you head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and you start to do any research on his book. But people, can I just tell you how much I wish a book of this notion and really the message underneath was given to me when I was younger, right? Because the underlying message amongst so much, right? I mean, listen, it's a mixture of a self-help / education and informative narrative. And it's all about how we respond to people and situations. And not only how we respond to it, but the consequences of that response. Now, the reason why I said I wish I had heard that message when I was younger, because there were a lot of times when I was younger, in my teenage years and even young adult years, where I responded to certain situations out of whatever emotion I was feeling at that time. You know, if someone had done me wrong or something initially had happened that upset me, I'd respond out of anger. I'd respond out of whatever emotion I was feeling in that moment. And that ultimately led to further uncomfortable situations. And I'm so glad that we have Dr. Ajeigbe here on the line, because I'm telling you, people, that message is something that is profound. Okay, this book is so much larger than words on a page. Okay, this is a lifestyle change. This is a movement. And at the end of the day, Dr. Ajeigbe is the expert. He's written it, he's done the research, and he's going to be able to articulate it much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's bring him here with us, okay? Dr. Ajeigbe, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, and thank you very much for the introduction.
Absolutely. Well, listen, you know, I always like to say when people compliment me on an introduction that I've given or a procedure that I've done in terms of their book, I have to respond with, well, listen, you started it, okay? I mean, you've written the book. You laid down a fantastic foundation. I'm just following the roadmap that you put forth, man. So thank you for the kind words, but also thank you very much for being a guest, because it truly is a pleasure for myself as well as it is for my listening audience.
You are welcome, and thank you.
Of course. Absolutely, man. Listen, I know we have a lot of information to cover pertaining to your book, but I do think it's important to start off by learning a little bit more about your background. So let's start there. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, you know, I was a registered nurse for over 40 years, and I worked in the emergency department.
Oh, wow.
I worked in the pediatric intensive care unit. And for that, I got into working with people, and I've seen responses with situations with family members, with staff, and with co-workers. And I just felt that some of those responses would have come out better than it did. And so it has always been in my mind that the responses we give has a consequences to the outcome.
Listen, man, you said a mouthful there. Now, before I offer any reflections, Dr. Ajeigbe, let's just keep it moving, okay? Let's jump right in. Your response could make a difference. Give us a brief synopsis of your book, please.
Well, the book is talking about how we respond to people, to situations, and even to God. And the type of responses we have depends on our mood at the moment when we are dealing with people and at the situation around us, what has occurred before and what is occurring presently. So it's always a good thing to pause and not to respond by reaction, but to take a slow action in responding so that things will still fall in place and the result will be the one we really want, which is a positive response.
Listen, I started off by saying the importance of that. I love it. I love the message behind it, Dr. Ajeigbe. Let's talk about inspiration for a second. Now, clearly, the message behind is something that we can all root for, right? I understand where it's coming from. I think it's profound. I think it's powerful. Now, why did you feel compelled to write this book, though, Dr. Ajeigbe? What inspired you to do so?
Well, I have read the Bible. I have seen the story of Adam and Eve. And in reading the Bible, too, I know that God is able to forgive regardless of whatever sin we commit. But I saw in the case of Adam and Eve, they were punished. They were thrown out of the Garden of Eden. What was their companion? He was visiting them regularly. But because of one offense they committed, he threw them out. Then I was beginning to wonder, why was that so? Then I realized that it was their response. God was able to forgive them of whatever offense they had committed, but they did not come out clean. They were giving excuses. Adam, first of all, was accusing God. Is the woman you gave me. I mean, you give somebody a gift, and that person comes around because they did not use the gift correctly and say, oh, it's your fault because you gave me the gift. That's what Adam did. So he was blaming God. Here comes Eve. Instead of saying, you know what, I did bad, I shouldn't have done that, he started blaming the devil. So nobody was taking responsibility. And as I was looking at that, I see everything around, how people don't take responsibility, how people just get quickly upset at situations, at other people, instead of just slowing down, understand where that person is coming from, do not prejudge them, but just slow down. By the time you slow down, take a deep breath, you are going to be able to see how you need to respond to them. And so when I was thinking of that, and I said, you know what, the response people have are really the issue. It is the problem. It's not really the actual issue from the beginning, but the response becomes the bigger issue that's creating either a positive response or a negative response. So I decided it shouldn't stay in my head only, but if I put it in writing, it might help someone.
Mm-hmm. People, again, we're here on the line with Dr. David Ajeigbe. We're discussing his amazing book, Your Response Could Make a Difference, available for purchase through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, directly through the publishing company, AuthorReputationPress.com, or wherever books are sold. You know, Dr. Ajeigbe, next question that I'd love to go into, and listen, something that you've already started to establish, so thank you very much for that. But I'd love to take a step into advice, right, and be able to offer some more words of wisdom, as if my listening audience needs any more of an incentive. to really cover this. Now, in your previous answer, you talked about patience, right? And how that can help have a positive response in any particular moment rather than a heated one, right? Or an angry one, whatever the case may be. Now, people, you know what you got to do, okay? Amazon, Barnes & Noble, there's no getting around it. You want to gather all of the information. You want to figure out exactly how to work yourself through and have a positive response. You got to pick up the book. But since we have you here on the line, Dr. Ajeigbe, talk to our listening audience, for anybody that's out there that can relate, because I know I can, right, in terms of dealing with a particular situation and not knowing how to give a positive or a favorable response. What are some words of wisdom that you can offer them on how to appropriately handle any given situation?
Well, with that, I will refer to James 1:19 in the Bible. That is James chapter 1, verse 19. It says, "Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to be angry." That's just really the advice that is given to us by James in the Bible. And that's the advice that will be great for every situation. We want to listen quickly, get what that person is saying. Then we need to think about it. We need to pause. That's why we need to be slow to speak, because we are not being reactionary. We are just being actionary. We are acting on things and not reacting to it. If we give ourselves time, sometimes people will say count from 1 to 10 before you respond. And that's what James is telling us here. So then, once we know that we slow down, we will be able to get the whole gist of what the conversation is about. And then we are not going to be so quick to be angry. Mm-hmm. It is when we give a quick answer, and so many times people, before the one speaking, if we finishes speaking, we already think we know where the person is going, but that's not where the person is going. And then we respond based on our preconceived notion of that person is really attacking me, or that person is but in that case, the person might not even be thinking that way. Then our response gets to be negative. Any negative response, if the other person responds negatively back to us, just become chaos. It doesn't come to a good result. But if we slow down, we respond slowly, we can ask questions for clarification. What do you mean? Do you mean this? Just to be sure we get the person correctly, because we might have not gotten that person correctly, and our response is just going to be the opposite of the intention of the speaker. So slow to anger, quick to listen, and slow to respond.
I love that. Listen, people, I know we're talking in general terms here in terms of how you respond to any given situation, but can I just say that he is giving some absolute gems, okay? Not only, again, from the generic perspective, but any relationships? My goodness, I'm telling you, people, this is key to a successful relationship, because we know that any successful relationship comes with powerful communication and effective communication. So your response is so crucial in that, okay? And I love the words that he said in terms of being quick to listen and slow to answer. You know, that reminds me of an old adage of, you know, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? I love it. I absolutely love this. Dr. Ajeigbe, next question here, man, and really a curiosity for myself, but what would you say was a highlight for you in writing the book? Or if not a highlight, something that surprised you that you weren't anticipating before you began?
You know what really surprises me is really writing this book has completely affected me too. because I was just going to write the book for other people to really see how they need to live. But as I was writing the book, there were situations that I would have responded differently before. But that book, every time I want to respond to things that are really is irritating to me, just caught my attention and says slow to respond. Slow to respond. Don't be angry too quickly. And then that calms me down. There were situations when I could have responded and it would have made the whole thing worse. But because of the caution that I was getting from the book I wrote, I was able to respond appropriately, and it was so successful ending to the situation.
There you have it. Listen, that's how you know you're doing something right. If you're able to take your own words and learn from them, well, listen, this is something you have to share, right? It just adds so much validity to it. I love it. Dr. Ajeigbe, listen, we know about your past. We know about this fantastic book. I'm focusing now on the future. Now, you do have another book that's available for purchase, so people go ahead and check out Zacchaeus Come Down. It's another book that Dr. Ajeigbe has written. Now, when you search it, it's going to be under David Ajeigbe, not Doctor. So this way you're able to find it, but it's also available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all of the familiar places. Now, dealer's choice, Dr. Ajeigbe, you can either talk about that book or any other book that you have on the horizon coming up. But please tell us what's next.
For Zacchaeus Come Down, this is just a Jewish tax collector. He was working for the Roman government, and the issue was the Israelites, the Jewish people, were under bondage of the Roman government. And so they did not want any of the Jewish people to have anything to do at all with the Roman government. But here we go with Zacchaeus and his company working to collect taxes from his own people and giving it to the Romans. Now, that's bad enough, but worst of it was he was collecting more money than he was giving to the Romans. So the difference he was putting in his pocket. And because of that, he became very rich. And he did not fit into the community to which he belonged because they hated him. He was such a short person that, I mean, if he was in the middle of the crowd, they can step down on him and just kill him. So Jesus, he knew he was a sinner and all of this, and he heard of Jesus, and he said, okay, Jesus is coming to town. And, you know, there's generally in that time, there will be areas when somebody important is coming to town where people will gather to meet him. And he knew Jesus will generally pass by where he was, but for his height, he was too short. He decided the only thing to do was for Jesus to see him was to climb a tree by the side of the road. That's how he climbed the tree, and Jesus saw him, and he confessed. Jesus just told him to come down the tree. So the title is Zacchaeus Come Down. So Jesus told him, come down. I am going to even be your friend, and I will go to your house today. This is somebody hated by everyone, and Jesus befriended him. Point is, it doesn't matter what we have done. If we come to Jesus, he is ready to forgive and accept us. That's what that book is about. Another book I'm writing is What is Holding You Back? I'm about 77 pages in writing that one now. And that book is talking about whenever we want to do something, sometimes things will be speaking in our head that is saying, oh, you can do it. oh, you are not good enough to do it. If we listen to those words coming into our head, that means we are not going to do it. And that will make it so that we are held back. And those are the things that could be holding us back. If it's listening, doing the will of God, listening to His words, if we do not want to do what it entails, those things will be holding us back. Whenever we think we are not good enough, that will be holding us back from whatever we want to do. So that's the one I'm writing presently. Another one I plan to write, which is in my horizon at this present time, is how do you fight your battles? How do you fight your battles? Everybody has one battle or the other. People handle battles in different ways. Some seek advice, seek treatment. Some people go into drugs or into the other bad habit that does not help them but make it worse. Mm-hmm. How do you handle your battles?
Dr. Ajeigbe's background and his doctorate is in medicine, but I'm telling you, he has another career waiting for him in education because these books are wonderful resources with very clear, definitive messages that are so poignant, that are so important to our day-to-day lives. I'm telling you, it starts with your response could make a difference. But check back into Amazon, Barnes & Noble frequently to get everything that he has in store, okay? Because there is so much to offer. These are wonderful resources to add to your shelf, and they're even better gifts for you to get and add to someone else's. So you know where to go. Head on over there today and purchase your copies. You can thank me later. Dr. Ajeigbe, this has been an absolute pleasure. Man, such an honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
And thank you very much. I really appreciate all your kind words, and God bless you.